Hello, how you guys doing? Hello, college coaches in sports and universities. How you guys doing? And hello, Bobby Knight. Keep those shoulders strong. Hope you're doing good. Work on vitamins too, you guys. Some of you older coaches, America needs those college coaches to stay in good shape. You know that. And NFL coaches too. Particular football teams and athletes and people that may have retired. You got to stay in good shape. America needs those college coaches and those university athletic programs and things that are important in the NFL and pro sports and NBA and NHL and all you coaches that's played and you became coaches. Some of you got to stay in pretty decent shape. A little active here and there. Sitting around eating good food choices. The different varieties of a diet and your vitamins is very important. And don't forget, my father played in the NFL for like 60 years. And in reference to Sports Center and ESPN, you guys need to do some stories about my mother and father in reference to sports teams that my parents owned, or in reference to my grandparents owning sports teams back in the early 1900s. This is very important. It's part of history and parts of facts in reference to leagues in sports. I'm the only child of my mother and father. This is important for, universities and pro sports and for America and international friendly acknowledgments of history. So, in reference to sports teams that my mother and father owned, or in reference to what my grandfathers owned, the news networks are obligated to do stories on that. It shouldn't be hard to find somebody that does a little research on information. But my father played in the NFL for over 60 years. But my father owns some sports teams too, right? But my father, it was pretty much unstoppable. And as a sports history of things, I used to go to the games with my dad and my mother when I was a little boy, the Cowboys Stadium and other stadiums, and Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Jets, New York Giants, other teams, in reference to teams that was competing back in the day. And my mother and we'd watch my dad play at, in the NFL and NBA and baseball and things like that. So, it's very important that the sports leagues document it in reference to all the character names that my father performed in sports, in reference to NFL, baseball, basketball, Olympics, Tour de France. All the information, has to be known, has to be documented, and they need to make a documentary on it. And in reference to sports coaches that know a little about my father, they know about my father playing in sports, their input is very important. Same thing in reference to my mother playing tennis or golf or running track and field, or my mother being involved in women's basketball, back in the day. So, it's very important that people show the importance of history and the facts and my athletic career too. I played sports when I was little too, and gymnastics and other things. So, the point of my father when he played in sports and the historic documents, my father played in sports for his own accomplishments too, and for team acknowledgments. So in reference to people trying to play this cover up of my parents and my grandparents in sports and my history in sports is not fair. My parents, they'd been involved in the sports industry, my father and my grandfathers, in reference to the early 1900s and even before, and some acknowledgments. So, it's very important, and it's not fair for people to be covering up the information. I'm the only child of my mother and father. All the Super Bowl rings that my father won, or championship rings that my father won, I'm the owner of those. I'm the only child of my mother and father. And the information is very important in reference to my athletic accomplishments. the history of my career and my future career in universities or sports, Olympics, boxing, track and field, cross country skiing, and other things is part of my life. And it's very important and copyrighted that it has to be acknowledged in reference to who I am and what sports names I perform under, in reference to character names as me playing in sports, and history and accounts of information. So it's very important. So in reference to these people slandering my mother and my father and the history of my family history in sports and media and movies and TV and productions, I'm the owner of the production companies of my mother and father and grandparents. And, there's a lot of history of things. Everybody's got history in sports. Most people do, and some acknowledgments of some things, whether they played or they're a fan, or the history of athletics is very important, and media and movies and TV and the nutrition industry. It's very important in reference to older people too, that you stay in good shape. You eat certain foods, keep your shoulders strong, keep your legs strong a little. This doesn't mean it's like a regiment of hard working out or anything, but it's about keeping things firm, finding out getting things a little filled out. You know what I mean? Like your particular muscles, checking your balance of your pH balance, or checking to keep your muscles in tone. I mean, some people put on weight, wonderful, but people put on weight, people stay in shape, people stay a little active. Doesn't mean you have to do anything strenuous either. Just good nutrition, good choices of things, good vitamins, and hello Flintstone Vitamins, and hello companies and GNC and Vitamin Shoppe and other nutrition stores. Lots of things of importance. In reference to America is a very important country, and international relations with friendly countries are very important too. And in reference to the sports industry, and in reference to my Hollywood career, I'm a Hollywood A-list celebrity forever. And I'm a sports athlete forever too. I'll probably play in the NFL probably 60 plus years too in the future. But my father played sports. My father, was pretty much unstoppable in the NFL. There's probably some people in the NFL that had little arguments with my father in reference to sports commentary or head coaches. Hey man, put it on there. And you guys, all you sports coaches, sports is an argumentative kind of thing sometimes. Some people, they do their rant and raves and their chanting of some things, very important in reference to hyping the game and keeping things good, keeping things, interesting, and keeping people aware of nutrition and health and better things of the future, and keeping things in order in reference to what problems there are in America. It's very important. Athletes are very important spokespeople for America too. Many different races, many different types of people. So in reference to sports athletes and keeping America healthy and strong, and international friendly races that are here in America and in other countries, very important. So, in reference to sports industries, they need to get some sports announcers to do information on my father and all the different names that my father played under in the NFL, and all the different names that I've played in sports. And if I have gold medals, or if my father had gold medals, if my mother had gold medals in the Olympics or bodybuilding. My father did bodybuilding too back in the 60s and 70s. This is very important. It's not fair for people to be doing this, covering up my family history, because people wanted to steal my mother and father's estates by making up lies about their health, making up lies about their athleticism, making up lies about their intellect. My parents was geniuses. And there's a lot of intellectual people in America. My parents was very successful in a lot of things. And it's not fair for government or anybody else to be covering up that information, slandering my parents, or these people slandering my character. So in reference to, sports and Hollywood and the media, it's very important that people, that knew my parents, or they knew my parents in sports or internationally, even China or Japan or Korea or England and France or Italy, they can say nice things about my parents too.